We're ready to talk about some Pat news, and today, and here I have a guest.
My name is Ryan McNeil. Happy to be here.
All right, we got Ryan here today. We're gonna talk to you about what happened last week with free agency, not just with the Patriots, but with NFL free agency in general for this week's episode. For Pat's premiere. Uh, so I wanted to start off with it was quite frustrating, when you think about it, we had there was a moment in time where we weren't getting anybody. You had some rumblings you where we thought that Belichick had was going to make a deal with the Niners, but it was a red herring, for Debo Samuel.
Mm.
That didn't happen. But then we hear the release of Jacoby Myers. We hear that that's not that deal is not happening, and then all of a sudden we hear some other news. We want to talk about that. Some good news.
Are you alluding to Juju Smith-Schuster?
That's what I'm talking about.
Now, Juju is a good receiver, and a lot of people were upset that he got a deal similar to that of Jacoby Myers when they could have just signed Myers. And originally it came out that they were the same exact deal, 3 years, $33 million. However, we have learned now that Juju's is more along the lines of 3 years, $25 million.
Okay.
And I think Jacoby Myers is homegrown. He's familiar in the system. He obviously gets along well with Mac, and he has produced in every scenario. And we obviously have the fan base has a relationship with him. I think they move laterally with Juju. I don't think this makes them any better or worse, really. I think Juju provides more big play opportunities. I think he's more of a red zone threat because Jacoby Myers did not catch a lot of touchdowns at all. And I mean, obviously, a lot of the work you did to get this far with Jacoby kind of goes down the drain. But I don't think this is a big step back like a lot of Pats fans are looking at it. Juju's a really good receiver. He had 900 yards last year, which I believe is more than Jacoby has ever had in his career. He did it. He was playing with Mahomes and Kelsey. However, he was still the number one wide receiver on a team that just won the Super Bowl. Like, that's nothing to scoff at.
Yep, and I like the point you made there. And the thing with Juju Smith is that the thing with this deal, with them signing Juju Smith, is that they're quite similar players, Juju and Jacoby. But the thing is, Juju could play a little bit versatile. You could play outside, could be any corner outside. You saw what he did to James Bradbury in the Super Bowl, but
Great Super Bowl. He came up huge.
yeah, and he came up huge in that moment of time for him and for the Chiefs. And what I see with him is that they're quite similar. He can play in a slot pretty well. He can play outside, so there's versatility there. Obviously, you see, and then the one thing that we gotta worry about is he's gonna have to stop, with the TikTok stuff, which he knows how the organization is, the
Yeah.
reputation that organization, the Patriots organization have.
Yeah.
So he knows right when he walks in that door, that Patriots organization, he's gonna have to understand that there's gonna have to be some more maturity. And I felt like there was a little bit of maturity in the Chiefs organization that he's showing improvements right there.
100%.
And we know his game's going to do the talking. His game's going to do the talking. I believe Belichick knows that as a manager, but also as a coach.
Yeah.
And it's a decent pickup, a decent little pickup. I'm hearing that they're trying to make more deals. The Patriots getting Jerry Judy, the likes of Jerry Judy and Cortland Sutton.
They sound expensive, though.
That is expensive. So
Yeah.
if you imagine if they're able to pull that off with a Juju Smith, those two receivers with a Juju Smith, that would be great. It'll be the receiving core will be up much more upgraded from Mac Jones. But I still see that we can make much more improvements in the offense. But this deal is I'm quite fond of this deal. I'm really quite fond of this deal. And
I like it too. I think you get more or less what you got with Jacoby Myers and for less money. And Myers was never going to be like a true number one. And I mean, Juju's never going to be a number one either. But I do think this improves the receiver's room while in a cost effective way. They still need to go out and get a number one wide receiver, and which everyone agrees on, but there aren't a lot of answers there because I think Hopkins is the wrong side of 30. The Debo Samuel stuff I don't think was ever going to happen. And the best receivers are found in the draft. And the Patriots are infamously horrible at drafting receivers.
that is true. hopefully we change that. There can be an some sort of change in that, and we find some great guys at in the perimeter, and there's tons of good guys, small, tall,
Mm.
and coming in this
I
draft
hope
class.
Tyquan Thornton can come into his own. He showed a few flashes last
Six
season.
foot guy that's
Yeah.
4.2, runs a that has a 4.2 speed.
Yeah.
Runs 4.2 speed. So like,
Yeah, simply that height and that speed, you have to develop something out of that. And I mean, this goes back to the
bulk up.
yeah, he's so skinny. I mean, this goes back to the McDaniels days too. The last reliable receiver or wide receiver or tight end that they drafted was Rob Gronkowski.
And Julian Edelman.
Edelman was the year before. So if
And
from 2011 through 2019, the best you got was Aaron Dobson was the best receiver or tight end that you drafted.
An undrafted free agent.
Undrafted free agent was Jacoby Myers. So that's like the best homegrown talent they've had. But still, no number one wide receivers have come through the building since Randy Moss, really, because they made Edelman a number one because he played with Tom Brady.
And Ross Walker. You had Ross Walker coming in from Miami.
Yeah, Welker was free agent acquisition. So
both slot guys. That's the thing,
Yeah, they have never. Moss has been the only guy in really the 20 years where it's a true big play outside kind of receiver. Take the top off the defense, which I don't think you necessarily need to win a Super Bowl. But when you don't have Tom Brady, you need to take chances. And they're still building the roster as if they have Tom Brady.
I can see what you're saying there. And, but one thing you got to think about is they're still relying on that defense. As we know just now, when you don't take a look at the offense, when you look at the defense now, McCourty just retired. Huge loss right there. Now, who's going to take that spot? And it's, to me, it's really interesting. Like, they're still rebuilding. They're still building this team as if Brady is still there, like you said. But the defense is still okay. But who's going to replace McCourty? Now, we still have Slater, but who's going to replace McCourty? That's a big veteran that has that's very vocal. And I'm just thinking, we got Adrian Phillips coming back, I believe.
I believe so, yeah.
Hopefully. And then we have him. There's no Chung. So you have Phillips. And everybody else is just forgettable. You still have Mills.
Duggar.
Then you have Duggar. But
Yeah.
where's Butler? Where's who we signed last year in training camp?
Oh, and then he got hurt, yeah. In terms of the secondary, it's messy.
It's all over the place. We got the three Jones and
yeah, I like Duggar a lot. I think he's just as good, if not better, than Patrick Chung ever was. I think he's fantastic, but he's a strong safety. He has honestly somewhat of a limited impact on the game. Free safety they need to replace. They've had Jalen Mills play a lot of corner these last few years because they've needed to. He originally was a safety.
You can move
and he's been a huge free agency dud. Jonnu Smith was so bad that people forgot that Jalen Mills has not performed for them whatsoever. They need him to be productive in safety or in corner. And another problem is number one wide receiver and no number one corner. I like Jonathan Jones. I like Marcus Jones. I like Jack Jones. I don't think either of them are ever going to develop into a true number one shutdown corner.
And it's not even because of size. It's just that they're pretty good. It's just that they need someone like a Gilmore right beside them. And they don't really have that. And if they did, or they had at least a McCourty beside them, they look pretty unstoppable. Yeah. Not to exaggerate it. It's just that the fact is
that's how good McCourty was in his prime.
That's the thing. And when you have like a guy like a Darrelle Revis, who's same in stature with like with like a Jonathan Jones and a Jack Jones, like that helps because he's a true number one corner. And when you think about it, losing Gilmore, I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all. But then not drafting a pure shutdown corner, we could have gotten J.C. Horn or something like that back.
Didn't they have a chance to draft Sauce?
No,
they didn't. Okay,
it was that pick. He was like the 5th pick, I believe.
Oh, it was that high. Oh wow, I misremembered.
Yeah, it was that high, and there was no shot. And the Jets, I hate to say it, but the Jets definitely deserved that pick. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They definitely, in a way, needed that pick, to improve that defense. But when you look at it, those guys are pretty good. It's just that we could be much better. We could be much better in a way, and So I have to ask. Now that's the Patriots. That's this is free agency for the Patriots. Um, hopefully we could do better in the incoming weeks. Find something, make
There's
some
still a lot of
changes.
dominoes to fall.
Exactly, exactly. But what do you think of like the whole like any other team? Like, what do you think of the landscape? What do you think of the landscape of the NFL is now? What do you think? Can you see?
I mean, the AFC East, I mean, obviously partial because we're both Patriot fans, but Rodgers, in all likelihood, will be going to the Jets.
And that's a stacked division right there.
It's an insane division right there. And do I think this propels the Jets into contention and they're going to be the deep playoff team? Not necessarily. I do think it means they're better than the Patriots. I can tell you that much.
So why do you think that? Because you have Miami with that explosive offense, and the defense is pretty. It's going to be
Now you
much
got
more explosive.
Howard and Ramsey on both sides.
And then you got
The Patriots aren't going to be able to complete a pass.
and then you have on offense the two powerhouse receivers,
The two fastest in
Waddle
the league.
and Hill, and they're look at their stature, but they're the two fastest in the league. Who's going to be able to contain that? We saw what happened in Week 1 last year. They went off.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to contain them. You have to rely on Tua's arm to fail, which I'm not going to say you can rely on Tua's arm to consistently fail, but we know he does not have the arm strength and accuracy. And he's had all these problems with concussions and injuries that the only thing stopping that team really is the quarterback right now. When you have that kind of, you can shut down a passing offense and you have receivers too. If they just run screen passes the whole game, they could score 35 points with those two guys. And I believe Gesicki is a free agent. If they could retain him, that's like their next biggest move that they have to make. But the Miami is absolutely scary. I mean,
Raheem Roster at running back, who's probably the second fastest player in the league, and
he's working his way back to being himself again.
And when you see that, that's a team that's gonna be tough to like stop, really. And then, you know, Tua is gonna be find a way to be healthy. He can't afford to get injured again. But he's gonna find a way to be healthy, and he's gonna make plays with his arm. He's gonna find a way to make plays with his arm. So that's a dangerous looking team there. And then you look at the Bills. I feel like they're gonna fall off here with you have when you have
little bit, yeah.
Miami and the Jets signing. It's gonna be tough. And then we gave them fits, the Bills. So it's gonna be who's gonna win this division next year. Like it was the Bills this year, but to me, it's gonna look different when you added Rodgers and that New York Jets team. I just think that's gonna push some teams back. That's to me, it looks like we, as Patriots fan, we should be worried because it looks like we're gonna fall flat and we're gonna go right. We're gonna go to that fourth spot. Really,
Yeah.
that could be the last place in that division if we don't make any big explosive moves. And all we got left is the draft, man. So,
Yeah. Right now, I do think they are certainly going to be the last in the division. Does that mean they're going to be a bad team necessarily?
Nah, it's
Not
just
necessarily.
It's
No.
the division itself.
It's the division itself. And I mean, Buffalo, I think, will win the division. I think they were the powerhouse last year, but they're going to have to play Miami twice a year, who they nearly lost to in the playoffs against Skylar Thompson. And then they're going to have to play Aaron Rodgers twice a year. Like 2-2 is very plausible just in their division.
Another big signing, Miami. Kobe White. Not is did I necessarily say it right? Kobe White or Mike White? Mike White
Oh, yeah. They signed Mike
from the
White.
Jets.
Yeah.
Now, if Tua gets hurt, that's their
Mike
contingency
White isn't
plan.
bad.
And that's their contingency plan.
Yeah.
So that's still a problem for any other team in the AFC East.
Because when Tua went down, I think Bridgewater stepped in for him at some point.
He helped
Skylar
a little
Thompson had
bit.
to step in. And they nearly won a playoff game. Like, the team is still, they can patch it together. And Mike White is probably the most consistent and best passer of all those guys. So, I mean, that actually is kind of a nice safety signing when Tua is such a wild card with his health.
Okay. So I have to say this. I'm gonna say this. Before we end this show, um, I want to go back to the Pats. Beforehand, sorry for starting, guys. Beforehand, I wanted to talk about who do you think, which quarterback in the draft you see as much potential has potential out of these three. I'm gonna give you out of these three. Anthony Richardson, C.J. Stroud, And the Alabama QB,
Oh, Bryce Young, right?
Bryce Young.
Alabama quarterbacks I'm always hesitant with because they play in such a great system. They have the top recruits. They make it easier for their quarterbacks to look good. Stroud was asked at the combine who he looks up to, and he said Mike Vick and Deshaun Watson. Not ideal answers.
That's to me because Stroud has the
I mean, he can
better
play.
arm.
He can
but
play.
he's not as elusive as them. That's the thing.
Williams, he's big, right? I like a big quarterback, and not Williams, Richardson, yeah. And from what I've seen of him, I think he can. I'm not saying he's like NFL ready or like he's the best. I think he can develop into the best, similar to how Josh Allen's size is such a weapon. I like what I see out of Richardson in terms of his potential.
Like a Cam Newton in a way.
Yeah, he's got a little prime Cam Newton stuff to him. Throw is a little prettier than Cam's, but even before Cam's all injuries, like his arm was fine. Like he could still win with Cam.
You see what mobile QBs like, like that's for example, Cam. Some of his injuries were even non-football related. They were like, so you can't fault him for that, and it's kind of similar. So like, but I say as far as technique with Richardson, it's better like with like not just throwing power, but like accuracy. I would say, but
I like Richardson a lot. Of those three, am I saying he should be picked highest? No, but like, I mean, if I was a team, I would prefer him.
Okay. The last thing I want to say really before we end the show, we hear talks about Lamar Jackson not getting his contract, not agreeing with the guaranteed contract, not having an agent. We get that whole story, that whole fiasco with Baltimore. Hopefully he could find a team because we need a player like that to be ready for next year. But do you think the Patriots make a move on that, or
I would love for them to.
Now, Mac Jones is okay. We haven't seen much from him, so we could still we don't really need to make that move, okay?
Yeah.
But one thing for sure is Bill Belichick has said that. Hey, I remember. I don't know if don't quote me on it. Don't quote me on it, but I remember he said if they can't make a deal for you, we can just something like that.
And I know that I believe they looked at Lamar pretty intensively the year he was drafted, and there were rumors that they were going to pick him at 31, 32. If I'm the Patriots, like I look at Mac Jones and I say, do I think he's an NFL starter? Yes. I think his ceiling is Kirk Cousins. I don't know right now if you will ever be able to win a Super Bowl with Mac Jones. And Lamar is worth every penny he's asking for. All this nonsense about, he doesn't have an agent. The man says he's worth this, and he is worth it. You give it to him. It should be very simple with working out a deal with Lamar. The guy has performed. He's won an MVP. He's gotten you to the playoffs. And who have been his best? He's had Mark Andrews, and then who has been his best receivers? Rashad Bateman and Marquise Brown, who they couldn't even re-sign. They have done so little for Lamar, and he has done so much for them that I think the organization is doing him a disservice by dragging him through all this and dragging his name through the mud.
And they think
by going through this process.
They think this is smart. In some way, it is, but
if I'm a free agent, do I look at the Ravens and say, I want to go there? The way they're handling this Lamar situation? No.
They may be a great organization, and they may have won two championships with quarterbacks that are possibly not going to be Hall of Famers, Trent Dilfer and Joe Flacco. Yeah. But they're still a great organization. I like what they stand for defensively, but there's a certain point in time you're going to have to take chances, and they're certainly not. Mm-hmm. So hopefully we can make that move, but it's not necessarily going to happen.
No, I do think it's a long shot. It's a pipe dream, but I still would love to see something erratic like that happen because Bill is 70 years old or whatever he is. If he wants to win one more, he has to make a very bold, very risky move like going for Lamar.
All right. So this is Pat Tremere.
I've been Ryan McNeil.
It's Kenley Pierre. Again, it's Pat's Premiere. Thank you all for watching. See you on the next one.